Welcome back to the best training channel on YouTube. My unbiased opinion. Today is Tuesday. We're gonna go into the weight room, kind of build off of our session that we did last week. Before we get to the gym, I just wanna remind you guys that we do have a subscriber goal. Once we hit 5,000 subscribers on this YouTube channel, I'm going to be releasing a free 8-week speed program. It'll be a full PDF download. You guys can get the entire program and keep it for life. Once we hit 5,000 subscribers, that will become free for you guys. I'm going to be releasing it on my Discord channel, so the link will be down below. You don't have to join the Discord channel now, but if you do want to get the program, you'll have to join at some point. You can download the program, and then if you don't want to be in the channel, feel free to leave. The goal is to just get that program out for you, and I think Discord is going to be the best way for me to deliver that program to where I don't have to set it up on a different site and charge $1 for it, all sorts of stuff I've already discussed in a previous video. 5,000 subscribers, free program. So if you're here for the first time, make sure to like, make sure to subscribe, and I'll get that program out to you as soon as we hit that 5,000 subscriber goal. So the reason you guys are here, today's training, we are gonna be doing some jumps. We're gonna be doing an Olympic lift complex, kind of a full body-ish program today, focusing on accumulating volume. I'm in the second week of what is essentially going to be a 12-week strength cycle. So this second week here, we're just going to be increasing the amount of volume we're doing in the gym, trying to build up a solid foundation so we can lift some more heavier weights with better quality later on in this training phase. So I'm going to pack my stuff up, get ready to go. We're going to start off with some med ball jump variations today at the gym. All right, so first thing I'm gonna do in the gym today, we're gonna do that single leg jump variation. We're gonna do 1 rep on each leg, loaded, so using a med ball, and then we're gonna do 1 rep on each leg with no load. I'm gonna do a couple variations of this today to show you that there's multiple ways to kind of get things done. You don't need to stick to the plan very rigidly, and there is a lot of variability that you can do within a training session. I get questions all the time. Somebody purchases my program and they want to know, can I do this instead of that, or can I add this in? Like, once you buy a program, the program's yours. You could do whatever you want with that program. The specificity on like how I programmed it, if you want to change some things up, let's say maybe you don't want to do a back squat and you want to do a leg press, it's fine. You don't want to do a bench press and you want to do a machine press, that's fine. As long as you keep the intensity relative, then it doesn't really change the session a whole lot, and you're probably going to get the same amount of benefit out of it. The specific exercises aren't as important as the intent of the entire session. Things that are important would be like exercise order, making sure that you're not just completely changing a movement. So if you're supposed to do a squat and you end up doing a deadlift, that's a completely different movement. You're gonna get a different stimulus. Changing things up where the same muscle actions are similar. So squat to leg press to hack squat to pendulum squat to safety bar to using a cambered bar, whatever you wanna do that is gonna be the same muscle action is fine. Same thing with like the jumps. A lot of times in my program, I'll just say loaded jump, and then I'll give examples of, you could use a dumbbell, you could do kettlebells, you could do a med ball, you could use a barbell. So today I'm gonna give you an example on how you can change up some things within your program and still get the same benefit. And it's good to do because a lot of people will run the same program back to back to back. If that's something you're gonna do, rather than doing the same identical program over and over and over again, you can look at different sections of those and maybe change the movements up. If you go to a global gym and you want to use machines for a couple exercises the second time through versus using free weights, that's a great example of how you can run the same program, change it up a little bit, and still see some benefits from doing the same thing over and over. So today I'm going to start off with the loaded jump. Set number 1 here, I'm going to do like I did last week with the med ball. So the plan is I'm going to take off on my jump. I'm going to land on top of the box. This box here, nothing specific about it. I'm just using it to kind of stop my forward momentum. If I were just jumping on this box, because I'm doing an approach, I would jump, land, and have that momentum carrying me forward. So I'm just going to put my opposite leg up here just to stop myself. There's nothing specific going on with that box there. The goal is to just kind of explode off one leg, land on top of the box. Then we drop the med ball. And that's how you would do a set with the med ball. I'm gonna do 6 sets total of this. I already did a set or 2 warming up, so I've only got about 4 to 5 sets left on this. Second set here, I'm gonna show you a variation you can do without the med ball that would still be a loaded variation of this. All right, another variation you could use is a barbell. So this is a training bar. I think it's only 10 kilos. Yeah, 10 kilos. So the med ball I used was 7. This barbell is 10 kilos. So an easy way to use a barbell for this is just get a lighter barbell, place it onto your back, and then we're gonna do the exact same thing, still have a loaded movement. So it doesn't really change a whole lot for the exercise. We're just putting a load in a different spot. The one thing I would say is gonna be different from this is because we got the load connected to our shoulders and we're not holding a med ball out in front of us, you probably could do a heavier load on your back. So a 10 kilo barbell versus a 7 kilo med ball, 30% difference on those. Not huge, but like I said before, overall, the stimulus is gonna be the exact same on this. So we'll do the same approach. Put the barbell down. And that would be the second variation on how you can load up a jump differently while doing the same type of stimulus for your workout. So for me personally, I'm using the med ball this cycle. So I did that set with the barbell just to show you variations on things can allow you to have a little bit more fluidity with your program. You can change things up a little bit if you'd like. As long as you don't mess with the overall intent too much, you're still going to get the benefit out of it. So set number 3 or 4 here. Another way you could introduce variation into your program if you want is using the same type of external load, so med ball, but changing up how you're using that med ball within the jumps. So as I've been doing for the previous sets, I have the med ball down at my chest, I take off, drive my knee up, drive the med ball up as I go onto the box. Another variation you could do is, let's say you don't want to push the med ball up. So you could take off, jump, land onto the box without moving that med ball. Maybe you want to start with the med ball overhead and do your jump and land onto the box. The position on which you hold the load may take away the need to be more coordinated or challenge your need to be more coordinated within that movement. So there's a ton of different variations. Same thing with the barbell. If I had the barbell on my back, I could take off and press the barbell up as I get onto the box. I could start with the barbell overhead or even start with like a wooden dowel overhead and work on that position. Really, there's an unlimited amount of ways that you could add variance into your program if you're doing the same thing over and over and over again. What I wouldn't recommend doing is what I'm doing today, is don't do 6 different variations if you have 6 sets total to do. Try to keep that same variation throughout the entire block. So same variation for each set. The next week when you're progressing that, keep the variation the same. Maybe you go lighter, maybe you go heavier, whatever it is, but don't change up the movement entirely every single week as you go. Generally, you want to stick with that anywhere between 3 to 5 weeks and then switch up the variation that you're going to do. Last thing I'll say before we move on to the clean complex, whenever you purchase a program and it's like a full program PDF like I have available and you want to change anything up with that program, You don't need to ask permission. People ask me all the time, can I add this in? Can I take this out? Like I said, it's your program. Once you purchase it and you've got the program, it's yours. You don't need to ask me permission to do anything. Have fun exploring and changing things up. Maybe you add something to the session and you didn't like it. So you know, okay, I didn't like that. I know I'm not going to do that again in the future. Maybe you add something to the session and you do like it. And then you kind of progress off that and kind of develop your own processes on how you like to do your training sessions and play with it a little bit. Anything is fine. Think of it like this. If you buy a car from somebody, you're not going to call them up and ask permission if you could tint the windows. You're just going to go do it because it's your car and you want to try it out. Maybe you tint the windows and you don't like it. You know that that was a mistake. Maybe you tint the windows and you want to go darker, so you go further on and tint them even more. It's same thing with the programs. Maybe that example is a little childish, but you get what I'm trying to say is once you buy the program, it's yours. Do whatever you want. Don't ask permission. Have fun. There's a giant learning process when you start tweaking with programs and trying to figure out what works best for yourself. That's basically the foundation of programming, is playing with things, trying to figure out what works. Sometimes you hit something exactly the way you want it to do and you learned, okay, that was a really good progression. Sometimes you miss and you don't like the way it does. I still go through processes like that often. I'll add something into a session. The next week I'll take it out because I didn't like it there. Have fun, play around with your programs, do whatever you want. You don't need permission. You're all grown adults, or at least I think you. I don't think children are watching this YouTube channel. But I'm gonna do a couple more sets on this and then we're gonna move over to the clean complex. The clean complex I'm gonna do today is the same as last week in terms of load, so I'm not going any heavier. What I'm doing though is I'm just adding in an extra pull. So last week I did 1 pull, 2 cleans, and a front squat. This week I'm doing 2 pulls, 2 cleans, and a front squat. So we'll stay at that like 115-ish range, which is where I was at last week. Adding a pull into it, keeping the sets the same. The Olympic lifting, for the most part, this block is just kind of building back some technique, since I've been doing a lot of power variations from blocks. So I haven't done a lot of work from the floor. So that's why I'm adding in some pulls and some cleans from the ground. And that's gonna be it. So we're gonna build up to about 115 and then we'll move on to the next lift for the session. All right, as I'm doing the cleans, like I said, this is just kind of here to build back technical efficiency, which is why I'm not going super heavy on these today. But since I'm focusing on technique, I'll let you guys in on kind of what I think about as I'm going through my pulls and my cleans and everything. So your setup position should put you in a position where you feel like you can squat the most weight. So even though it's called a pull, I like to think of the pull as more of a squat. I'm just holding on to the bar with my arms versus having the bar on my back. So when I'm doing my pull, I try to line that bar up over the ball of my foot, get some space between my shins and the barbell. And then as I do my pull, I want to keep my shoulder either out in front of the bar or at minimum directly on top of the bar. Ideally, you want to be out in front of the bar a little bit, but all I'm thinking about doing is from this position here, I'm thinking about a barbell being on my back and I'm trying to push that bar with my legs. I'm not actually pulling this bar up with my arms. So for the pull, keep the chest over the bar as long as possible. And then at the last second, you want to extend through the hip and bring that bar back towards you. And then when you do the clean, should be identical. You just pull yourself under the bar. And then when I do my front squat at the end, what I want to do is catch that second clean, stand up, and I don't want to readjust anything. I want to stay in that same exact spot and be in a strong front squat position. If you find yourself doing a clean and you need to readjust your feet in order to do a front squat,
You may need to look at what your receiving position is and try to switch that up. But ideally, you're in that strongest position as you catch that clean. You stand back up and you should be in a very strong position to continue on with that front squat. That's gonna be my focus on these. I got 4 more sets of that, and then we're gonna move on to some bench press. All right, bench press today. I'm gonna be doing the bench press after the cleans to give my legs a little break before we hit back squats. Last week I did the cleans, went into the back squats. I felt like it made my back squats a little bit harder than they needed to be, so I'm gonna throw the bench press in between right now and hopefully give my legs a little bit of a breather before we move on to the back squat. The setup for today is pretty much the same as last week. So we're gonna do a top set, then I'm gonna drop my weight down, do my working sets, and then I'm gonna finish with an AMRAP set. My top set is gonna be 8 reps at around an 8 RPE, and then I'm gonna drop somewhere between 15 to 20% for my working sets. I was thinking about this session today as I was driving to the gym. I think I'm gonna nickname these DMX sets. So anybody that's a DMX fan, you know Rough Riders anthem. He's got the chorus, stop, drop, shut them down, open up, shot. This bench press set up like this, I'm gonna call them DMX sets. You got your top set, your drop set, and then you open up shop and you go for an AMRAP to finish off. So DMX is on the bench press. I just coined that. Feel free to steal that from me if you'd like. But I'm gonna warm up to somewhere around an 8 RPE, and then we'll knock out our working sets after that. All right, squats up next. Last week, my working sets, I think I was at 155. I'd like to be about 15 to 20 kilos above that today. So somewhere around 170 for my sets of 5, but we'll see how it goes as I'm warming up. that's gonna be it for the squats today. 170 on all the working sets, felt really good. Honestly felt better than the 155s did last week, which is a good sign. Next week we'll bump it up, we'll go a little bit heavier. I know I'm gonna get questions about the belt, so I'll just let you guys know. The belt that I'm wearing right now is called a breath belt. It looks like it's a big, bulky belt. It's got kind of 2 layers to it. The first inside layer here is really just kind of like a neoprene, almost the same material that like knee sleeves are made out of, but it's very, very thin. The second one allows you to just get it a little bit tighter in order to kind of become a belt. This belt, I would say, is like a step below an actual weightlifting belt. Even though it's wider, it's not nearly as thick as a weightlifting belt, and it's a lot more flexible. So it allows you to kind of still move within your trunk. It doesn't really lock anything down, but it's tight enough to where you can still brace against the belt and have some sort of external object to brace against, which is what a belt should be used for. So if I have a normal weightlifting belt on, and the one that I have is kind of like your traditional weightlifting belt most people see, 4-inch. It's very thick, it's more rigid. You can get this thing locked on and tight, and then once it's on, that doesn't really allow for a lot of movement through that midsection. Kind of locks everything down a little bit more. So I would say this is a step below that. I like training with this belt on just because it makes me have something to brace against, but it's not as supportive as a weightlifting belt. So I feel like I'm still working on my ability to brace and be strong within that movement. And then as I get closer to actually doing some heavier lifts, I'll stop wearing this belt and I'll put on my actual weightlifting belt. So just to kind of preemptively answer questions, because I know people are gonna ask about it, but it's called a breath belt. I've used it for probably, I don't know, 6-7 years now. Work today felt good. I'm gonna finish off with some iso work, some split squats, some calf work on some isometrics, but I'm gonna end the video here. So I appreciate you guys watching. If you made it all the way through, make sure to like and subscribe. Tomorrow is just gonna be an easier, kind of low intensity day. We'll do some accessory work. We'll be back in the gym. We'll do some core work, and I'll kind of explain as we go through tomorrow's video. But appreciate you guys, and I'll see you tomorrow.